So good afternoon, friends, and welcome back to the online learning platform at Department of Civil Engineering. And you're along with me for the course Environmental Studies, popularly under the term of environmental engineering. So if you recollect, in the previous session, we had spoken about biodiversity. We had understood what biodiversity means, what are the different levels, what are the different types of hotspots, why do we need to preserve them, and of course, you have an assessment to understand the same knowledge. Okay, now in today's class, we shall be discussing about forest wealth. We shall understand about the word or the term deforestation. Okay, so in today's presentation, we'll also try to have a brief knowledge about the types of forest. Okay, what is the value that they have towards the society or the environment? Now, what is the threat that they are facing? How can we go about conserving them? And towards the end, I shall be summarizing it for your kind perusal and before listing the references. Okay, now forest. Okay, basically, it's a Latin word, forest. Okay, so the word forest has been derived from the Latin word forest. So what we need to understand is, if you're looking at the earth as a whole, okay, now around 10%, or let's be precise, 9.4%, or reducing. Okay, that is the amount of geographical portion of the earth which the forest is covering. Okay, in simple words, forest is a very highly complex, constantly changing environment. So look at the terms: complex, constant, changing environment. And any forest for that matter will contain several living and non-living attributes. You will find a tiger, you'll find a rabbit. Okay, you'll find grass, you'll find trees. But any forest for that matter, okay, the most dominant component of any forest is the tree itself. Okay, now let's move further and let's go to the other term, which is deforestation. Now, since we say tree is the most dominant component of the forest, that is why generally when somebody asks you, what is deforestation? You say it is cutting down of trees. No, deforestation is destruction of forest. It is not cutting down of trees. Okay, now there are various definitions for deforestation, and sometimes I feel that it is a definition which has created the damage, because certain definitions of deforestation goes to an extent that if in a given area, if you have destroyed 90% of the trees, 90% of the forest, only then it is called as deforestation. So probably there is a very huge gap or a lacunae in the way this has been defined. So let us say, I go for destroying the forest by 80%, since it is not touching 90%, can we say it is not deforestation? Nevertheless, please understand that when you say cutting down trees deforestation, it's obviously for only one simple reason. The moment you remove the most dominant component of a forest ecosystem, automatically any other attribute, any other living or non-living attribute which is connected to it, which is related to it, will be impacted. For instance, if you cut down the trees, you will not find the gorillas, you will not find the macaques. If you cut down the trees, okay, you will not be able to entertain the groundwater recharging. Okay, I have a small video to show you. I want all of you to listen very carefully, because there is a question which is asked at the end. And I want you to ask this question to yourself. I want you to answer this question also to yourself.
some percent.
Anything between 40 or 50%, to be fair.
Around 40% for nature.
Develop medicine negative species now 50%.
Hopefully 100%, but I would settle for at least 50.
They should have all of it. We should work around them.
I think about 60%.
7 to 8% is decent.
I think 10% for oceans is a bit low.
Between 12 and 15%.
I think we should leave 60%.
50-50 is great.
Setting aside 10% of the land and 10% of the oceans project areas is far too small.
25% protein.
Or government's talking about 13 and 17%. It's too less. That 17% is very good.
I'm quite shocked by that figure, those figures.
It's like a drop in the ocean. Too little.
We lose the species from the ecosystem, and we're ultimately hurting ourselves.
So in the video, they were asking you, it's time we decide how much time, we should live for nature. Okay, now the question is that we are the decision makers at how much we should live for nature? But probably, once we realize that whatever decision we take, it is invariably going to impact us. Okay, when that kind of knowledge comes to these decision makers, these policy makers, probably only then this world would be a safer place to live, not only for just the wildlife but also for the human beings. Okay, so probably tomorrow, once you come to a position of decision making, you should be smarter enough to make a very good decision which is sustainable in this nature. Okay, now let's continue. Okay, let's have a glimpse of the various kind of forests. So you have the first one, which is, you're looking at it right now, that's a tropical rainforest. Usually these forests are found near the equator. Okay, yeah, the temperature is usually very high, and yes, as it says rainforest, okay, it always receives an abundant rainfall or precipitation. Okay, and most importantly, since there is a huge amount of precipitation received by this, they are usually vital storehouses of biodiversity. Unfortunately, now they are on the verge of threat. So most of the hotspots that you're looking at is, probably a rainforest itself. Now, moving on from your tropical rainforest to subtropical rainforest, these forests are usually located around to the south and the north of the tropical rainforest. Okay, now the most important thing about these rainforests are the trees. Okay, I'll repeat, the trees in this rainforest, they have adapted themselves. Okay, they have adapted themselves to resist any drought. Okay, any drought, any lean period, any summer period. Okay, now the next type is your Mediterranean forest, and usually these forests are found to the south of the temperate regions. So that is around the coast of the Mediterranean, California, Western Australia and Chile. Okay, now something significant about the Mediterranean forest is, its growing season is usually very short. And if you observe the photograph as well, almost all the trees that you find here, they are a mixture of hardwood and softwood. Okay, now temperate forest. Now basically, these type of forests, they are found very widely in eastern North America. Okay, Northeast Asia. Now when it comes to Europe, yeah, probably the west and the eastern part of Europe as well. Now, something which is very significant about these are that, they are usually a mix of deciduous and coniferous evergreen trees. Okay, and the most important part is, the broad-leaved hardwood trees. Okay, they shed their leaves annually. Okay, so annually those trees will shed their leaves. Friend, this is just a brief introduction to the type of trees. Now, coniferous forest, something I'm sure you're very familiar with. If you look at the shape in which the tree is growing, it is not having those wide branches. You don't find the canopy that you found in the evergreen forest or the rainforest. Okay, now of course it is because of the way it has adapted or evolved, okay, to the climate. So hence these coniferous forests are usually found in cold areas, okay, and yeah, near the poles. Okay, now yes, they are evergreen and they are structurally adapted. Why are they adapted? So that they can withstand the drought-like conditions, which is not due to summer. Okay, the drought-like conditions due to long winter. Okay. Now, yes, you also have the montane forest. Incidentally, these montane forests are also called as cloud forest. Okay, because they receive most of their precipitation from the mist. They receive most of the precipitation from the fog, which comes up from the lowlands. Okay, but friends, these montane forests are actually found in high elevation, tropical, subtropical, and temperate zones. So these are few of the forests for your kind information. And yes, if you come towards India, and probably if you come towards southern India, you may also find deciduous forest, okay, evergreen forest. But I do not know how many of you have heard about the tropical thorn forest. In case if you have gone towards North Karnataka, if you've gone to the Daroji Wildlife Sanctuary, which is famous for protecting the sloth bear. Okay, now in those places you will find forests like these. And every forest has adapted themselves. Every forest has adapted to the climate. So you can see that there is an understanding, there is an interaction, there is a relationship which has been established between the biotic and the abiotic parameters. For instance, the water presence, okay, whether it's the groundwater level or the climate, as a matter of fact. Okay, now that you know what is a forest, what is the most dominant component of a forest. Okay, you also have a vague idea of the various type of forest. Let us recap on the benefits of a forest. Okay, now you know very well that whenever you talk about the benefit, those benefits can be broadly classified into the ecological services or the economic services. Now more or less, when you try to associate a service with the money, with the economy, with the finance, then you try to brand them as the economic services. Okay, now as you can see here, you're talking about the water cycle. Okay, now that's an ecological service, because forests are playing a very important role in enhancing precipitation, in combating climate change. Okay, also forest is a heaven to produce oxygen. Okay, unfortunately now, at the advent of COVID, you do realize that there's so much of money being spent. There are a lot of hospitals without oxygen. Okay, but we ourselves are understating, underrating, and exploiting the free oxygen. But just imagine, if oxygen is very costly when it has to be supplied to hospitals, then just imagine how costly those trees are, how costly that forest is, because it is supplying oxygen free of cost to you. Okay, now if I would like to generally put across what are the various uses of forest, much better than me, very well that the forest is providing you fuel wood. Okay, forest is protecting you from the damages of floods. Okay, yes, the forest is providing raw material for pulp and paper industry. Okay, the forest is helping in controlling climate change. The forest is helping in enhancing or improving the water cycle. Okay, the forest is very important for purifying the air. Okay, it takes in carbon dioxide and it returns oxygen. Okay, so there are so many functions that a forest is doing for us. Now we have of course further classified them as aesthetic use. So whenever you go for a trek, you go for a census, you go for a spiritual feeling. Okay, it's a forest that you head to. Okay, now Yes, you're not the only one who goes inside a forest, but but what we should understand is, when we go inside a forest, there are already some occupants. That is, we are guests, and there is somebody called as host. Okay, so another importance of forest is, everyone has a right to live. Okay, so when we go to a forest, we are guests. We go there. Okay, we observe and we return back without disturbing the environment, the natural environment which belongs to the other occupants. Let's say it could be a tiger, it could be an elephant, it could be a grasshopper, it could be a snake. Okay, in simple, everyone has a right to live. And probably in the video which I'm going to show you now, you'll understand that how those animals are able to coexist unlike us. Now, if you've observed this, this is your giant Malabar squirrel, Rathufa indica malabarica. So you have a bonnet macaque next to it. So, you don't find them, hurting each other or tearing each other apart. So whenever you speak about a forest ecosystem, okay, there are animals which coexist. Of course, there is your prey and predator relationship, but probably we need to learn from them, okay, how they coexist. And if we learn those lessons, probably, the earth would be a better place. And of course, you're very much aware of the option value. There's so much hidden. There is so much of mystery, there is so much of enigma inside the forest that is yet to be unraveled, that is yet to be revealed. Okay, and once revealed or once unraveled, they will be a potential storehouse, okay, probably in terms of productivity or consumption or even medicinal values. Okay, probably, who doesn't know, maybe the cure of COVID is also inside that. How many of you actually know that all these vaccines which are being produced with respect to COVID, okay, we are actually depending on sharks, we are depending on the poultry? How many of us really know that? So there's so much which is hidden inside them. Unfortunately, in the pursuit of a solution, we are creating a problem by hurting them. Okay, and yes, if not us, okay, at least we should thank the tribals, because they revere the forest as God. Okay, and probably it's because of the tribals that at least some of the forests are still safe, because they consider them as sacred groves. Now, yes, we always look at forest from the economy point of view. What is that we can produce from it, and what is that we can consume? Okay, that is the economic aspect. Now, as a consequence of our demand for productive attributes, for consumptive attributes, we are going about rampantly cutting down trees. We are going about rampantly destroying the forest. Okay, if you look at this image here, once upon a time, the entire earth was probably covered by the forest, and there was a small fence wherein, it was built to make sure that the wild animals do not enter that. But as the age progressed, as the decades progressed, okay, it became 50-50. Okay, and unfortunately, the people on this side are praying for rain without realizing that what would attract rain is not present. Finally, this is the situation. It is the vice versa. Now, the almost the entire earth has become barren, and all that which was there in the forest has been reduced to something called as a zoo. Okay, that's the reality, my dear friends. So what actually causes deforestation? There are so many factors. Okay, maybe it is your pursuit for building dams, okay, the rapid inorganic urbanization, industrialization, okay, your demand for the food crops, the cash crops, that is agriculture, okay, the natural disasters, of course, climate change, okay, mining, desertification, the unstoppable population, okay, the unstoppable demand for timber, and yes, the popular demand for connectivity, to connect two locations which is situated on the either sides of a forest. You go about cutting down the trees. Okay, your need for tourism, not sustainable tourism, unsustainable tourism. And of course, yeah, forest fires. Okay, now in the context of forest fires, I'll take it in the next slide, but let's look at a small video to understand deforestation, causes of deforestation.
Forests cover about 30% of the planet, and the ecosystems they create play an essential role in supporting life on Earth. But deforestation is clearing Earth's forests on a massive scale, and at the current rate of destruction, the world's rainforests could completely disappear within 100 years. Why should we care about deforestation? Together, forestry and agriculture are responsible for 24% of greenhouse gas emissions, making deforestation a significant contributor to climate change. Deforestation impacts the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere in two ways. First, when trees are felled, they release the carbon they are storing into the atmosphere. Second, trees play a critical role in absorbing the greenhouse gases that fuel global warming. Fewer forests mean larger amounts of greenhouse gases entering the atmosphere and increased speed and severity of global warming. In addition to helping regulate the Earth's climate, forests provide habitats for over 80% of the plants and animals that live on land. But deforestation destroys these habitats, diminishing biodiversity. Some estimate that 4,000 to 6,000 rainforest species go extinct each year. This also affects the more than 2 billion people who rely on forests as sources of food and shelter. The biggest driver of deforestation is agriculture. Farmers chop down trees in order to plant crops like soybeans, palm trees, and cocoa, or to make room to raise livestock for beef. Logging operations, which provide the world's wood and paper products, also cut countless trees each year. Forests are also destroyed as a result of growing urban sprawl as land is developed for dwellings. The effects of deforestation are grave, but not irreversible. Efforts such as managing forest resources, eliminating clear cutting, and planting new trees to replace those removed are already being made to reduce deforestation's environmental impact on our planet. And while some plant and animal species are gone forever, combating deforestation can help prevent further loss of biodiversity.
So friends, that was a very simple video trying to explain to you about why deforestation should be controlled or curbed. Okay. Now, one of the major causes of deforestation is forest fire. Now, you must have heard about the forest fire which happened in Bandipur. Okay. And very recently, the unfortunate incident in Australia. Okay. Now, what you need to understand additionally is, forest fire is basically a natural phenomenon, but a natural phenomenon has a natural purpose. The purpose such as succession. Okay, that is a series of the progressive changes in the composition of an ecological community. Okay, now this succession can happen in two stages, that is primary succession or secondary succession. In simple words, if there are natural forest fires happening, okay, it has a purpose wherein only the stronger organisms, stronger species can survive, they can evolve, and they can continue the next generation. Okay, probably even if you talk about the natural selection, that is actually a differential survival, okay, based on your phenotype differences. Okay, but when I say forest fire in this slide, I am not referring to the natural forest fire. I am rather referring to the forest fire which is intentionally triggered by the humans. And why would they do that? Okay, why would they do that? Probably, to clear the space, and they can carry on their construction activities or carry on the ranching activities. Okay, they can clear the ground for agriculture. Okay, and unfortunately, this is one of the biggest disasters, because deforestation is not only cutting, not only killing your trees, okay, but it is also releasing vast amount of carbon dioxide, okay, which is leading to global warming, vast amount of sulfur dioxide, which is leading to acid rain. So wide environmental consequences due to the forest fires triggered by the human race. Okay, yet another cause of deforestation is the human greed. Okay, now generally whenever you speak about recreational activities, when we tend to head towards a forest, okay, we play wide music and disturb the entire habitat. It's like somebody comes to your house and speaks in a very loud voice, disturbing your peace. So unfortunately, all these tiger reserves or the wildlife sanctuaries, okay, all your reserve forest, when they are used for the purpose of recreation, okay, to enhance the comfort, to enhance the luxury of the humans who visit there, is invariably leading to deforestation. Okay, we all have a wrong perception. Whenever we go to a forest, we have a perception that we should see a tiger. Sorry, the perception is you should go to a forest to observe the forest. Okay, keep your mouth shut. Okay, try to listen as much as possible, and yes, you are definitely being observed by every living creature inside the forest, and probably you would not even recognize it, you would not even realize it. Okay, but that's not the trend in which recreation activities happen. Okay, now even if you look at the Corbett Tiger Reserve, so much of this tiger reserve has been destroyed in order to propagate or enhance tourism. Can you believe it that you have got the river beds which have been encroached upon? All this will have consequences. Okay, next, this is something which is always controversial. We tend to require water, and so what do? We tend to stop running water, which is a river. Unfortunately, when you're stopping a running water ecosystem, it has its own consequences. For instance, let us say, looking at the image on the left hand side, you tend to go about stopping the river. So what do? Okay, you tend to build a dam. A dam is an obstruction, and subsequently the upstream side of the dam becomes a reservoir where the water gets stored. But what is this actually causing? It is causing everything on the upstream to be submerged. So many floral and faunal species, they lose their habitat. In case if it was part of a tribal habitat, even the tribes lose their house. So dams or hydraulic structures also is one of the major causes of deforestation. Okay, now, this is probably the best picture which can explain to you deforestation. This is the Amazon rainforest. Unfortunately, Brazil is not heading in the right direction. Okay, but the consequence of deforestation in Brazil is not just going to impact Brazil, but the entire globe. Okay, because most of the oxygen which is being produced and supplied to the world is 50% is almost coming from Amazon itself. Okay, we are always talking about shopping from Amazon, but how many of us realize that even the shopping materials, the packaging materials which Amazon is supplying to you is leading to deforestation in Amazon itself? That is where, my dear friends, our role comes as an environmental steward. Okay, now ranching, that is livestock, that is your cattle's, this also is one essential cause of deforestation. Now, I'll just give you some small examples or small case studies. This is Kudremukh. Okay, how the ore industry has destroyed Kudremukh. It took about 25 years for Kudremukh to regain its glory. So this is what Kudremukh lost, and it took 25 years for Kudremukh to return back to this glory once the mining operation was stopped. So mining is also one essential cause of deforestation. I do not know how many of you are aware of this. Bellary is once very famed for mining operations, and mining is such a profitable venture that our so-called politicians have gone ahead. Okay, they have even changed the political map of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh so that they can enhance the mining operations. But where is this greed going to take us to? Okay, mining eventually not only destroys a forest, it literally results in contamination of your groundwater with toxic heavy metals which the earth had protected and conserved. It had stopped us from getting in touch too. But this is what is happening. Greed, the human greed. Okay, at the end of this human greed, who is suffering? It is those people, that population who suffers, who actually wants to protect the forest. Let's say the tribals. Okay, you will not understand their pain unless someone kicks you out of the house. Okay, we will not understand the pain unless we are evicted from the house. So forest is their house. They are the people who have lived with the forest, lived with the wildlife. They know every inch and corner of the forest. When you remove them from their house, how does it feel? Okay, so it is with respect to the tribals, the same feeling also with it comes with the context of the wildlife. Okay, tomorrow if someone says that the elephants have come, okay, they've come to Hosur. My dear friends, elephants did not come to your place. That place was once upon a time their territory. It was once upon a time a part of the forest. If tomorrow elephant is coming out and hurting somebody, it's only because you have destroyed what belonged to them. You have destroyed their habitat. Okay, when their habitat is destroyed, they automatically will come in search of food. If you go about destroying all the bamboos, obviously they would still be hungry. That is why elephants raid the sugar cane. Okay, look at the similarity of a bamboo and a sugar cane. Okay, and tomorrow we blame the elephant saying that they came and destroyed our vegetation. Where did the vegetation stand once upon a time? Nowhere. It was a forest. Okay, now yes, this is the excellent example of how deforestation can impact humans. You must have already heard about, the flood which, ransacked Chennai or Kerala. But let me give an example with respect to Philippines. During 20th century, Asia's provider of rainforest timber, there was only one nation, and that was Philippines. In 50 years, that is, in the span of 5 decades, 60% or 66% of the forest of Philippines was completely removed, totally removed. And what happened? Because they did this, whenever it rains heavily, okay, whenever there's a flood, okay, almost the entire nation is underwater. And I'm sure this is a similar situation that Kerala is facing, Chennai is facing. Okay, people there are ready with boats, because the roads on which the two-wheelers and four-wheelers run, okay, whenever it floods due to destruction of Western Ghats, this is what happens to them. Okay, I think it was the year 2000, okay, Philippines had attained the highest deforestation rates. My friends, if we cannot learn from their mistakes, we are going to face similar situation. We are already facing this. It is time that we stop the destruction of the Western Ghats. Remember, Western Ghat is one among the biodiversity hotspots which is there in India. Okay, now in your school textbooks, very popular word, Cherrapunji, the wettest place on planet Earth. Sorry, no more. If you go toward Cherrapunji, it is undergoing severe transformation due to deforestation. And that is why now the next place which has taken over is the Mosindram village. It is Mosindram which has the greatest precipitation in this earth. I do not know how long this would be, because if they also plan to get urbanized, plan to go about mining, no more. Okay, now we have spoken so much about human beings, but yes, deforestation is also going to be a threat for many of the wildlife. Okay, for example, they would eventually end up creating, categories like vulnerable, endangered, threatened, extinct, and so forth. So this is your Indian giant squirrel. Okay, this is your bubble nest frog. Okay, of course, this is your national animal. This animal had to be named the national animal so that it could be protected. Okay, now moving ahead, what can we do? What is that I and you we can do to protect a forest? Okay, so probably there are many ways in which we can go about conserving a forest. It again depends on are we trying to protect it in an indirect manner or a direct manner. If we can understand why a forest is important, automatically the forest will be conserved. If we do not understand the value of a forest, then we will never protect it. Okay, whether you protect a forest in the name of a tiger, it is beneficial, because if you want to protect a tiger, the forest has to be protected. That is why you have got tiger reserves. Okay, whether it's your Bandipur, okay, whether it's your Pake, whatever for that matter. Thanks to the aspect that we are trying to protect a keystone species, the forest also gets preserved. Okay, now sometimes it's also about your flagship species. There is some organism that is you want to protect it for some specific purposes. Nevertheless, if you're able to do it, it's good. Okay, but because please understand that how we do it matters. The image on your right hand side is your Thailand. Okay, now just imagine how lucky we are, how blessed we are that we have trees, because no other planet on this solar system is habitable, because they do not have life. They do not have life because they don't have life supporting system. The life supporting system is basically your forest, your plants, your producers. And if we don't understand this common sense, okay, then probably people who are at high positions, who are supposed to do the work of protecting forest, will fail. They will not just fail themselves, they will fail all of us. Okay. And unfortunately, everyone has a very wrong impression that if I can plant some saplings, I can cut down hundreds of trees. Let's say I cut one tree and I put hundreds of saplings. That will serve no purpose. Okay, let's look at this video of innovations in afforestation.
We lose an acre and a half of forest every second. There goes another one. There goes another one. It's 15 billion trees a year. This drone gives us a way to fight back. This was invented by a company called Biocarbon Engineering. They're in Australia. It is a tree planting drone. It fires a tree bullet into the ground, right? Biodegradable bullet container, soil, nutrient-rich solution, little plant, driven by AI, so it gets fired precisely at the depth it needs to go to, and the exact position it should grow in. This drone can plant 100,000 trees a day. They're building an army of 10,000 of them. They can plant 8 billion trees a year.
I'm very sorry, you cannot plant a tree. You can only plant a sapling, and that sapling will take at least another 50, 100 years to become a well matured tree. Okay, so please remember, afforestation is not a solution for deforestation. Afforestation is only planting of saplings. It is not planting of trees. It is not relocation of trees. But yes, every effort which is going towards afforestation is appreciated.
Technology is finally getting to the point where it's making a serious, serious difference in this fight.
So friends, since you belong to the digital branch, you can come tomorrow with solutions to fight deforestation. Okay, now let's have one simple aspect clearly understood to make you realize that it is not afforestation which has to be focused upon, but rather prevention of deforestation. If you look at a tree, if you look at the heartwood, okay, if you actually start counting the number of years that this circle has taken to finally evolve into this phase or this circle, okay, just imagine, right from Napoleon Bonaparte to Albert Einstein or Van Gogh, how many decades it has undergone. And finally there is this one gentleman who was born in this era who cuts down the tree. So 5 saplings, 500 saplings, 10,000 saplings is not a solution if you cannot protect even one tree. Okay, so please understand, conservation is the key to protecting this earth, to preventing deforestation, because we need to understand that forest is a lung space. Okay, you should be fortunate enough because BMSIT college, the green campus, is also a lung space for North Bangalore. Okay, like your Banagata National Park is a lung space, your Lal Bagh Botanical Garden is a lung space, which means it is supplying oxygen for you, removing the impurities. So if we do not understand that, then we are going nowhere. Okay, let's try to understand the fact that we are here as a part of the world. Okay, we are part of this earth and not the other way around. Okay, and yes, probably this photograph should make you understand that whatever we are trying to do is the other way. Okay, we are trying to make things for our comfort, and that's really not gonna help. Okay, because you cannot modify things, you can't stress upon things, you can't infuse things upon the wildlife. So friends, a small presentation to make you understand, if I and you don't learn our lessons, we will go the way the Mayan civilization went. The way the Mayan civilization totally disappeared. We always gave credit to dinosaurs, we gave credit to the aliens, we gave it to asteroids. But the reality of the Mayan civilization disappearing is only because they loved gods. Probably they loved gods more than they should love, because they started cutting down all the trees, they destroyed all the forest to build pyramids, or what do we call these Incan structures, Okay, all these temples. And finally, in the pursuit of building so many Incas, so many temples, what did they end up doing? They ended up destroying the forest. And friends, forest is connected to your water cycle. Since they did this, the entire water cycle was destroyed in that area and those people perished. So friends, we have come to the end of this presentation. So we understood why we need to protect forest, the types of forest, how we can go about doing it, what are the threats. But the story is simple. The bottom line is simple. We need to protect the forest. Okay. So please remember, you have to be the change. You need to be the one who will introduce this change because you are the future. Okay. How many of us would like to see a photograph like this? Most of us would like to see a leopard or a cheetah on a tree like this. Do you really want to see this? Sorry, I don't think so any of us would entertain that. So friends, these are the references for a kind perusal. Okay, and any additional materials are always welcome. And in the next class, we shall start with module 2, wherein we shall start with energy systems. Okay, the latest advances in energy systems. So with this, my dear friends, we have come to the end of this presentation. I thank you for your kind hearing and your patience. Now we shall leave this forum open for any queries, any discussions, any questions you have. Thank you.